Hello friends, very good morning to all of you. So today we are going to discuss PF49, that is OAuth and authorization or delegation protocol. So there is some debate or maybe some confusion around this, right? Whether OAuth and authorization or delegation. So we discussed already on the OAuth section, but again we can just discuss and just try to understand whether it's the authorization or delegation protocol. So let's begin. Discuss the topic which is a kind of debate also, like maybe with some person, like whether OAuth is an authorization or delegation protocol. So if you remember that we already discussed this, like when we are covering the OAuth, the very first lecture, like where we discuss about the printing example, and then we try to understand that how OAuth is playing a role in that. So I'll just recall you again that example. But yeah, this is something like maybe you can see people can ask you in the interview also, because the interviewer knows that might be you have some confusion in that. So maybe he can just try to understand that whether whether you have the clarity or you have some confusion uh, in understanding of auth in terms of authorization or delegation, right? So so let's go to this. So fundamental to the power of OAuth is the notion of delegation. OAuth is often called an authorization protocol, and this is a name given to it in the RFC, which defines it a delegation protocol. So what is then RFC here? So let me just show you. Yeah, so the RFC series, so RFC series ISSN 20701721 contains technical and organizational documents about the internet, including the specifications and policy documents produced by 5 streams. The first stream is IETF, Internet Engineering Task Force. Then you have the Internet Research Task Force. Then you have the Internet Architecture Board. Then you have the independent submissions and then editorial. And you can be a member of these different streams. You just need to go to their website, you just need to subscribe, you just need to be a member, so that like you can see what is going inside that, like what are the discussions going inside that, and you can be a part of that, so that you can understand exactly what is happening in that region. And let me just go to the authorization framework. So as you can see here, it's just talk about the OAuth 2.0 authorization framework. Okay, and based on this RFC, so that's why it's a kind of standard thing. Okay, you can just refer this website. Okay, so you're able to go through, you can just see the information what it's just like the same thing what we are discussing. But you can just go through, read that. It's a kind of standardized things which you can follow for verifying anything, whether it's client credentials, authorization code, whatever the grants we discussed, you can use these documents also. But it's a kind of same thing what we discussed. But you can just go through the attacks, vulnerability. We're going to discuss this all like in our sessions also. But you can refer these also. Okay, so let's come to our presentation slide. So so that's fundamental. The power of OAuth is the notion of delegation. And although OAuth is often called an authorization protocol, and this is a name basically given to in the RFC, which defines it a delegation. So it's a delegation protocol only, but somewhere it defines as an authorization also. So people have some confusion, right? Whether it's whether I can say OAuth is an authorization or delegation. So now this generally a subset of users authorization is delegated, but OAuth itself does not carry or convey the authorizations. Instead, it provides a means by which a client can request that a user delegate some of their authority to it. The user can then approve this request, and the client then act on it with the results of that approval. So if you remember that example, right? So that's the same thing what is mentioned here. It's just like it just needs the user delegation. Client basically need that, and then client can just act on that with the some whatever the service client's trying to use by getting the delegation access from the user to perform some particular activity. So now just let's me go to that example, and let me just recall you that example. So the example is like, if you remember the first session, that you went for some vacation, you came back, you just clicked many photos there, right? As usually people are doing, and then you just came back from the vacation and now you want to just print some of them. That means you just want to print like 5 of your photos so that you can just create an album and put it in your somewhere, maybe in your hall or whatever, drawing room, or in some place, right? Just to make the memory things. So now you just clicked 100 photos, right? Now you don't want to print all, you just want to print like 5 of the specific photos which you like. Now you have two services here, as you can see in this presentation also I put it, that diagram. So you have the printing service and you have the photo storage site where exactly photo stores, and here you have the photo printing service which can print the photos. So photo printing service can act as a client here, and the photo storage site is a resource server. So if you remember that example and our auth flow, so and you are the resource owner, and then PingFederate, you can say it's acting as an authorization server. So in this case, in our printing example, as mentioned, the photo printing service can ask the user, do you have any of your photos stored on the storage site? If so, we can totally print that. Okay, that's the photo printing service is saying to the resource owner, to the user, right? If your photo is stored in the storage site, then I can just go and print all of the photos. Now, okay, now the user is then sent to the photo storage service, which asks, this printing service is asking to get some of your photos. Do you want that to happen? Right? Then it's now the user decision, right? The resource owner, who is the owner of that photos, which is stored on the storage site. So there is a call came to the user, and just with this condition, like the condition is like the photo storage service is asking to print the photos, right? Whatever the photos you have stored in the storage site. Now it's the user can then decide whether they want that to happen, deciding whether to delegate access to that printing service. So now it's the user resource owner responsibility, or maybe I can say the call, to basically delegate the access that so that it can just photo printing service can just access only those 5 photos on the storage site, and then just print those 5 photos, not all. Okay, only the 5 photos. Okay, so that's a kind of delegation. Yeah, so basically resource owner is, because you are the owner of the photos, so you have the complete access, but you are not giving that complete access to the photo printing service. Otherwise photo printing service can print all the photos, or maybe can delete, whatever, it can just perform anything, right? If you can give the access, complete access. So what you are doing, you are just delegating your access to only those 5 photos which you want to print, and this only the action will be performed by just it's for printing, not for any other actions also. So basically you are delegating your access to the photo printing service, so that photo printing service can able to access the API, storage site API, and just get the photos and then print it. That's all. Now you can understand here the distinction between an delegation and an authorization protocol is important here, because the authorizations being carried by the OAuth token are opaque to most of the system. That's true, right? So basically, like, yeah, if your authorization server is just authenticated, like, because there is authentication part involved there, so its user has completed the authentication, and then authorization server issued an access token. That is basically a kind of opaque. It's a opaque because that is not having any it's not talking about the like the user things, right? User information, that when the token is issued, the basically for the user part, right, as we have seen in the ID token, the information, it's not talking about those things. It's just like giving you the token, and now you can use that access token to perform some activity, to perform some APIs, and just do your job, right? So that's here the distinction between an delegation and an authorization protocol is important here, because the authorization being carried out by the OAuth token, or you can say access token, are opaque to most of the system. Okay, because it's not having anything, so it's opaque to most of the system don't know anything, yeah, what is inside the token. Only the protected resource needs to know the authorization, and as long as it's able to find out from the token and its presentation context, either by looking at the token directly or by using some service of API to obtain this information, it can serve the API as required. That means like the OAuth token is like an opaque to the system. It cannot, the system don't know what is inside there. It's just like an opaque system, opaque number, right? Which is an unidentifiable. Now using that token, once you get the token, it's mainly how that it can be basically, it's mentioned here, only the protected resource needs to know the authorization. That means once the printing service gets the token, now it's the resource server which basically can get the can able to use the access token to perform some APIs process, right? Like to get some user information. That means in general scenario, if I can say, not maybe just leave this example for now, and just in a normal scenario, you are just integrated OIDC based applications where you have the OAuth and like your OpenID Connect. Basically, it's OpenID Connect, which is just it's just working on the top layer of OAuth. So you have both the things there, like access token as ID token. So now the authorization server issues these two tokens to the client. Now this client is just a blank, right? You don't understand what is this token. It's a kind of opaque to the system. That means it's just an opaque number for the client. Now what client will do? Client will delegate that access token to the resource server, right? Where exactly the basically the resource reside. Maybe the user information reside for now. I'm saying in that way. So now it just send that or delegate or basically send that access token to the resource server. Now resource server can use that access token to call PingFederate user info.openid endpoint to extract the user information. That means using that access token, which is just an opaque thing for a client or for a system, it can be used by resource server by just using that access token and then just calling the user info.openid to extract the user information. Like that means to get the user email address, username, user department, user roles, like that. Once you have that information, then it can just allow the client to access the API, storage sites API, right? For this example. So basically, OAuth is completely, you can say, a delegation protocol. It's not an authorization. Yeah. So here in OAuth, what is happening? Like the owner has to delegate the access to perform that, to basically so that the client can perform some action on the behalf of the resource owner or on the behalf of the user, you can say. Okay. So basically, who needs to know the authorization? It's a protected resource, not the client or the system, right? That's why we can say in OAuth communication, OAuth is a delegation protocol. So it's a very, this example is a very good example. Maybe you can just make a note of this example also, like if someone asks in the interview or maybe in general also, you can able to explain, right? Like how you came to the vacation and how basically you don't want to give the complete access to this client or to the service here, photo printing service. Otherwise it can go and print or delete anything it can do, right? So I just want only to give access only for those 5 photos, so that printing service can go to the access the storage site API on the behalf of the user and just print those 5 photos and give me and send to me, right? Like that. So this example is a very good example. Just make a note, recall, just remember this. So in this session again, maybe we are just revise this, right? Because we have already covered in the first session. So it's a kind of revision happened for us. But yeah, if you have still any questions around authorization or delegation, feel free to put in the comment section. We can discuss again. But yeah, we can just there are more things we need to cover in OAuth. We started, we covered the grants, we covered the OpenID Connect, but there are many things still we need to cover. We just need to see vulnerabilities. There are different types of vulnerabilities in OAuth. It's not 1, 2, 3, it's multiple. We need to understand exactly from where vulnerability can come and how we can mitigate that, how we can just overcome that. So once we know those things, maybe we can take some precautionary measures to avoid that. So we can just talk on those all things and with the session by session, and you will understand more on OAuth. And please follow the RFC document as we have seen. If you want to just read the standards about any of the OAuth grants or any of the OAuth particular things, you can go there and just read that. Okay. So let's jump to the next section, and if you have anything, please put in the comment section. Thank you.